and in lockdown, how that has accelerated this market hugely. We'll then look at the interaction between content creators and audiences. Moving on to influencing factors. So we'll discuss some of the factors that define the grounds of web broadcasting as a market, and look at how exciting and competitive this market is, and look at some ways in which you as someone producing can use some of the features within the ATEM to get your message out there and get established online. We'll then actually look at the ATEM software. So I'll actually go into the software so you guys can all see some operation within the software. So I'll do a quick overview of where everything lives and some good places to be looking for certain settings. And then I'll show you some actual things within like the upstream keyer and a downstream keyer. So some quick ways to add titles, logos, things like that. We'll then move on to look at some actual specific workflow examples. So I'll show you some schematics of some setups using our product range, and how we can combine solutions made by us to get you guys, producing content, live streaming, recording, and kind of working at kind of any level within production size, whether it be one camera up to 4, 8 cameras. We'll look into ways in which our products can help you do that. And then, as Stephen Fassia said, we will end on a Q&A as well. So do make sure, if you've got any questions throughout this presentation, please do make sure to be bobbing them in for the Q&A at the end. So let's look at the trajectory of web broadcasting. So it's a really large market that has massively grown in popularity over the last 15 years. Thanks to introductions of things like the internet, it's made it very accessible now for everyone to get online and get producing. And again, this revolution was initiated by video sharing platforms, social media, and OTT content platforms, so over-the-top content platforms like Netflix, Amazon, all those type of things. It's now evolved into so many forms and accessible from so many different types of devices. It really makes it difficult in today's day and age to actually imagine how we would communicate without this amazing bit of equipment that we've now all got access to. So Blackmagic Design offers a broad range of products which can fit perfectly into these different markets. Our solutions span from acquisition sources to signal distribution, passing through processing hardware and software, with the aim of facilitating the delivery of high quality contents while still preserving and enhancing the creative intent by the end user. Each of the applications you can see in the slide here use very similar components, if not the same from source to destination. It may just be that they utilize them in a slightly different way for their type of production. So obviously, we're all aware within the last year, the pandemic has obviously put strains on certain businesses and certain avenues for production. We've worked relentlessly within this this year of being in lockdown, and even under these current circumstances to help bring you more products. So we've done product releases. We're also updating, adding firmware updates to products. And I think even within the last year, due to everything that's been going on, we've still been really successful in what we've been able to produce. The pandemic has obviously shaken up the AV industry massively, and for many, it's represented a turning point or potentially a shift in their careers. Some of you have probably taken this time to reflect on different options and rephase in front of those new challenges. Working from home, smart working, remote attendance are all striking examples of a new way of working collectively now and partaking in public or private events. The sudden spike in these activities has really reinforced the need for remote and affordable solutions. So talking about remote access and locations, although beneficial to some, being in a dedicated or prime location is no longer a must now for many. The nature of programs and coverage, as well as the multiplication of events, require productions to expand or contract in different areas and adapt rapidly to the constantly changing circumstances. Meaning now more than ever, it is very much imperative to be investing wisely on time, resources, and equipment. We are glad and fortunate to say neither the pandemic or the fast-changing nature of this market has really prevented us from being extremely responsive to our customer needs and our developers and engineers who have strived to deliver products and features of outstanding quality. I feel like this can be really seen in our most recent product release with the ATEM Mini Extreme, the Web Presenter HD, and the Pocket 6K Pro. All products that are answering a lot of customer feedback. So again, a lot of customer requests have come in on products within that family. And again, hopefully this new release within those 3 different product areas have really helped to allow customers to get to where they need to be with our products. So let's identify some of the influencing factors in the web broadcasting market. For the larger majority of productions, this can kind of be traced back to either a profit, a service, or a hobby activity. We're aware that some of you will already be involved in this type of business, and this will be just hopefully a reminder of why you got into it and how you decided to make that move into this industry. But for people new to this, it can represent the beginning of a new challenge, which requires some planning and strategic thinking. So what are the things that you need to consider as someone producing content? So whether you start from a blank canvas or you're looking to reshape your current production workflow, it's important to set out your intentions and find out which of the following aspects needs to be either established, built, or maintained in order to help define your digital engagement. Only after drawing that clear picture can you then match those aspects to a subset of tools that our solutions can then offer you to allow for obviously the production of that content with those needs that you've ascertained. And later on in the presentation, I mentioned we'll show you some of the diagrams of how these products can be used and how you can start to raise that production value and use more of the connections on things like the ATEM Minis. Recognition is probably one of the hardest things to achieve in a market like this, especially if you're trying to stand out or get started. It can be very hard to obviously establish this recognition. The ATEM range, which we'll see in detail shortly, where I'll show you some tools and tips, offers some really easy ways to make yourself stand out from the crowd and instantly recognizable. And they're things like logos and titles, just really easy ways to help create that recognition for your audience. Making impact through creativity is yet another crucial aspect to successful audience engagement and an overall better experience for the end user watching. This could be achieved by layering things like animated graphics, lower thirds, keyers, picture-in-pictures, which help to diversify your communication style and make it more striking and appealing for someone to obviously be sort of eye-catching and then obviously looking into your productions and hopefully creating that recognition so that instantly it's recognizable that it's your production that's obviously producing the content. Building reputation relies on quality and consistency of your content through different platforms. So our webcast solutions give you the necessary confidence to broadcast your program, fulfilling that industry standard that we all need in this kind of environment. And again, to help establish that reputation of being someone professional and delivering in high quality standards. Some of our models let you record all of your sources and your program whilst also streaming live so that you can repurpose that content at a later date for subsequent editing and then obviously uploading. So maybe adding some more detailed titles, some more laid up animation titles, logos, and helping to just, showcase that creativity. So again, as the products step up, they do allow for a lot more flexibility within the actual recording as well as the live streaming direct as well. When your service or production has the potential to catalyze an audience, we need to make sure that obviously that has enough reach. This can be achieved by casting a larger net, so through a variety of different platforms, uploading to multiple platforms, either online or via a traditional broadcast infrastructure. This requires an understanding of the delivery and networking options offered by those chosen solutions. Some of the ATEM MIDI models, in fact, make it really easy to get access to this and include onboard video encoders, direct streaming, as well as conversion and signal distribution accessories to suit your workflow. So what do we offer? So Blackmagic has always been at the forefront of the media technology industry, and we've strived to bring you affordable products to market that allow for creative people to do more of what they love. There are some aspects that are common in all our product family range, and they really represent the backbone of our solutions, including those designed for web broadcast like the ATEM family range. Accessibility, this is something that really drives us as a company, and it is one of our founding ethoses. So it's to make products at a price that make them accessible, but allow creative people to produce high quality, engaging content. And again, this is really shown in our recent addition to the ATEM range, listening to customer feedback and now having 5 different ATEM minis in the family, allowing for access for all budgets. Usability, again, a real driving force for us here at Blackmagic, and it can be seen through our product range within different areas of the business. The compact form factor of the ATEM minis, as well as the really clear and simple button layouts, allow these units to sit very discreetly in several different types of production environments, but keep those main controls still at your fingertips. So whether you're self-operating and managing your own presentation or production like I am today, or catering a very simple solution for somebody else to kind of help you out with, no task should be too daunting with our equipment. We tend to use the same applications and menus in our products. As such, the ATEM control software, for example, is used throughout the whole ATEM range. So if it is that you've used one of the ATEMs, it really is that simple to then work your way up through the range. Again, the software is identical. It only probably gives you access to more features as you move up through the range of our products. Reliability and quality is obviously very important within manufacturing. The signal integrity is well preserved from source to destination within our products. It's all in really good hands, and in fact the ATEM minis process audio and video feeds with the same precision as our top of the range broadcast switches. With the addition within the ATEM mini range of the great onboard encoding quality and recording options, again optimized for most live streaming applications and platforms. So again, all pre-built into the output, so your kind of classic RTMP platforms are all in there, and create that really plug and play sort of ethos with this range, making it very simple to get it out the box and get working with it straight away. Scalability is, again, another big thing for us. So most, if not all, of our products are designed to ease that future expansion for the customer and add to your systems as you kind of progress through what it is you're producing. And again, hopefully what that gives is a very clear upgrade path to you as a customer, how you can start to build up through our range. And again, we use open standards and common technologies within our products, so you're never locked into a given ecosystem. And this is something we really pride ourselves on, is that flexibility within our product range that allows you to grow as your production grows. So now comes the part where we're actually going to dip into the software, and I'm going to show you some places and areas to be looking within the software, and also some tools and tips to get you started. So before we do that, I'm just going to give you an idea of the setup that I've got here in front of me. So my setup is fairly simple. In the center of it is the ATEM Mini Pro that I have down here. It's managing all of my sources coming in and creating an output that you're all seeing either on YouTube or Facebook. And again, commonly that is referred to the program out or the PGM output. And that's essentially, again, what your spectators will be seeing wherever it is that you're working. I'm currently actually using the USB-C output of the ATEM Mini Pro, and that's handling my stream, so everything you guys are seeing, and also the software control. So when I dip into the software control, all of this is being controlled via USB-C, and this is very likely how we expect people to be using it in a web conferencing or webinar sort of environment, using things like Skype or Zoom. So at the moment, I only have these 2 sources coming in at the moment, but it's very easy to add more sources. For example, I could add another PC coming in. And when I do that, the ATEM Mini is actually going to negotiate with that PC. So again, rather than having to set loads of things up yourselves and no resolutions and no standards, the ATEM minis have that internal conversion. So what it's actually doing is negotiating with the PC to identify what is the best resolution to be actually sending to the ATEM Mini Pro. So again, takes the work off the people using the equipment and allows the ATEM Mini to do some of the work for you. And again, that works the same with games consoles. So again, if it is you're doing YouTubing for gaming content and things like that, again, it's going to work in that same way and identify that best working resolution. Also, when you're bringing a PC in or Mac in or anything in like that to the ATEM Mini, it kind of it sees it as a PC. So again, using my Mac here, I can set it either to use it as an extended desktop or to mirror my desktop, and that will feed in the type of input that I'll be seeing through the ATEM Mini. And again, connecting a camera is just as easy, provided the HDMI output of the camera is not above and beyond 1080p 60. Plugging that in will basically direct it straight to your multi-view almost instantly. And I've got my multi-view set up here, so HDMI out of my ATEM Mini Pro. A great feature of the ATEM Mini range, like mentioned just a minute ago, is that internal standards converters on all of the inputs, which means it can convert pretty much any PC or broadcast resolution, obviously fitting in with it underneath that 1080p 60 to match the program resolution that you set up in the software. And again, I will show you how that is done. This means you don't necessarily need to replace everything in your studio. So again, hailing back to that ease of future expansion as a customer, what we've done is allowed things like, for example, if you've got old 720p handycams lying around, the ATEM will accept these and actually convert up to your desired program resolution working in 1080. So again, as you start to progress and maybe you get to a stage where you think, well, how can I raise that production value? Maybe that's when you then look to invest in higher grade cameras. So hopefully this shows that it's very easy to get going and get starting to produce that content. And then as you progress and as your reach gets larger, your audience becomes larger, you'll always get to that stage where you start to think, how can you progress this? And again, that's a great aspect within the ATEM Minis and generally within our product. Something that really drives us is that scalability and how you can grow the setup depending on your needs and your budget. So again, starting with older cameras, for example, and then as things grow, moving to slightly more high-end cameras. So what we're going to do now is I am just going to nip into the software, and we will start to see everything that is working within the software. So give me 2 seconds and I'm just going to mirror my output. So again, hailing back to when we were talking then about what you can do within the ATEM software. Obviously, when you're feeding it into the ATEM Mini Pro, whether you use an extended desktop or whether you actually mirror your output. So I'm just going to bring it across over here. So we've got a nice big view. So this is the control software. And as you open it up, this is the switcher tab where you'll spend most of your time and probably actually will be the point on opening that you will see first. So what I've just done again is mirrored my output. So now you're seeing my main desktop that's being fed through to the ATEM Mini. One thing to realize here with this software is this is a remote control software application. So all of the heavy lifting is actually being done by the ATEM Mini Pro. So we do get questions about system requirements for the ATEM control software. And again, remember that this is just a remote piece of software. So again, computer requirements, it doesn't need anything too intensive or sort of expensive within that, because again, the ATEM Minis are actually doing a lot of the work for you within terms of the heavy lifting and processing. So what I'm going to do to start us off is actually just take you through a tour of the software. So moving from left to right within the switcher tab, we've got our program and our preview. Now, again, this is just going to kind of give you an idea of what these different functions will be. So the program is essentially going to cut the actual program output. So if I was to cut to camera 1, that's going to be a straight cut to my camera 1 as my program output. So anything that you're affecting within the program, and again, it's referenced with that red light to say this is on air. Anything that you change within that will be a direct cut of what the audience is seeing on that program output. Your preview underneath is going to allow you to actually load in some of these angles to your preview monitor. And again, I'll show you where that can be located when looking at the multi-view. But this makes it less destructive a way of cutting. So again, I can load up my Cam 1 into my preview, look over to my multi-view, and I can see what's going on within that camera angle. And then if it is at a point where I can cut it, then I could use my transition styles here to actually create that cut. So if I was to use just a straight cut, that's going to create that straight cut, and it's doing it between my preview and my program. So whatever I've got set within that. I've then got autos. So again, if I wanted to use some of the auto transitions that can be selected up here, I can obviously do that. And you also get control of this manual T-bar fader, again, for doing some manual control of your different transition styles. Above that is where you're going to see some information for your keyers, so your upstream keyers, whether you've got it set to preview and whether it's on air. And again, that'll be referenced with that red light. To the right of that is your downstream keyer. So this is where you can set, again, preview for your downstream keyer on air to, again, set it just directly on air. And if you want any sort of auto transition to allow for that to come in and out. And then finally, your fade to black at the bottom, which again is a really good way to be either bringing up a production from black or fading out a production to black. The great thing is there is if you've got a lot of things going on stream, maybe you've got some upstream keys going on, some downstream keys, what that fade to black does is it brings everything down at the same time. So it's a real nice way to ensure that everything on screen is going to fade down to black to finish off that program. Moving over to the right-hand side, you've got the palettes up here. So color generators, upstream key transitions, downstream key, fade to black. And this is where you get access to some of those critical settings for things like the upstream key and downstream key, which we will go into in a little bit more detail very shortly. You've then got media player. So again, this is where whatever you've got loaded into that media player will show, and also any hyperdecks that you've got linked up, which again could be recording or could be used for playback. Output, this is where you would set your live stream and record streaming settings. So again, if I was going to be using the Ethernet connection and go into an RTMP based platform, this is where I can select it. So again, you'd be selecting things like YouTube, going into your YouTube, finding the streaming key, bobbing the streaming key in there, and then you can go straight on air, and that's going to take you for a live stream. Record stream, you've then got options for naming files and obviously the drives that are connected. Obviously, remember the Mini Extreme has 2 USB-C, so 2 potential drive options. And this is where you'd set that record in all cameras if you're using some of our cameras like the Blackmagic Pockets. That allows for you to basically trigger the cameras from the software here, which can work really well if you're ever looking to kind of do a remaster on the end of this. So you've got one of the ISO products and you're looking to go into DaVinci and potentially remaster something like 4K or even 6K using one of the 6K Pocket Cinema cameras. This is where you would set that kind of stuff up. Capture video and capture still, all pretty basic stuff. And there's your timecode generator. So again, where you can set that. And again, that's how we get that kind of record trigger and sync with our cameras like the Pockets, is that we're able to send that timecode back to the cameras to make sure that everything is nicely in sync. Then going to move on to the media tab. So in the media tab, this is your media library. So where you can start to bring things in to be used within the media player. And I've got 2 titles loaded in already that we're going to work with, but I'm also just going to show you how easy it is to be getting files in. So this is a JPEG file that is me essentially on a chroma key background. I'm going to bring that in and I'll just show you again, another JPEG, drag and drop, and you literally can just take it off your desktop straight into your media library there. Worth noting as well at this point, there is now a direct plugin with Photoshop. So if you download the control software with Photoshop loaded onto your computer or Mac, it will actually add that direct plugin within Photoshop so that you can now actually export directly from Photoshop into your media library. So you don't have to kind of save out and then bring it in, import or bring it in from the desktop. You can actually just direct exactly where you want it to go as well. So if you want it to go into, say, slot 14, you can direct that from Photoshop, and you can even then say, and I also want it to go live into the media player, which is what's down here. So again, the ATEM Mini Pro has 1 media player. So again, this is the active media player. So whatever I want to be working with within, say, my upstream or downstream keys, I need to make sure that it is set to be active within the media player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load in this first title, and we're going to go into the downstream keyer settings, and I'm going to show you sort of how we can start to create some titling within the software. So I've loaded that now into my media player, so that's now active. I'm going to go over to my switcher tab, go to my palettes, and I want to select my downstream key. And again, just a very brief, a rudimentary sort of explanation of upstream keying and downstream keying. If you imagine it very much like a stream running from the top of a mountain down to a lake at the bottom of a valley. So again, your upstream stuff is happening right at the top of the stream coming from the mountain, and any downstream key stuff is happening more towards the lake at the bottom. The reason is downstream keys, things like logos and titles, you want them to be overlaid over pretty much your end program output. So if you're doing it downstream, you know that everything happening upstream, the downstream is going to be layered on top of that. So again, things like logos, titles, where you want them to be on screen for the duration and be overlaid over everything else, that's where you utilize the downstream key. Upstream key, things like chroma keying, for example, that's where you're basically working with layered stuff. So again, you want that to be happening upstream because you're actually going to layer some things in between that to then get that sort of program output down at that kind of sort of lake point downstream. Hopefully that makes sense. But again, if it doesn't, add in any questions within the Q&A and we can get to those. So again, these titles were just created using Keynote. So just very basic piece of software. And I've just literally, this first one is created on a black backdrop with just some red text. What I want to do is tell the ATEM control software that I want the media player one to be my fill source. So again, what is it I want to bring in? And what is it I actually want to key out of this source to allow for this to be overlaid? Now, again, I know what I've done here. So I've created this on a black backdrop with red text. So I know that I want to be keying out the black. And then if I was to go on air with this, that title is now on air. And again, if I cut to my camera, there you can see the title on air. Again, it's a very basic title. And again, it was created on Keynote. So again, it's probably not the best key going. But again, it's a very, very simple way to be starting to bring in some titles. Now, I'm going to take that off air because, again, be very careful if you're ever keeping things on air and then starting to change settings around and things because, again, it's on air, it's red, it's going to be on your program output. I'm going to go back to the media library, and then what I'm going to do is drag and drop the second title in. So again, sorry, I was on my camera then. So I've just literally grabbed this second title here and brought it into my media player to activate it. So this has actually been created in Keynote, but it's been created with a transparent background, so an alpha layer as the background. So in this type of setup, this is where you'll start to get the more out of the software and you'll start to get some better looking titles. And again, the ATEM minis are really clever in that respect, is that they can understand transparency layers and understand how to work with them to obviously create real nice critical looking keys. So I'm going back to my switcher tab. And again, I want to tell the ATEM what it is I want to key out. Now, I know that it's a keyed background, so I want to basically tell it to key out that keyed area. If I then go on air, that's when you'll then see that on air. And again, I can knock back into my camera and again, imagine this as a title. And again, sort of my name potentially showing up. That shows a much better looking title that stands out against me. And hopefully, again, just gives a better look and still a very simple way of doing it. So back into the software. So that's some very, very quick and easy ways to be adding titles. And again, they were just created into Keynote and yeah, brought in very quickly and started to obviously key them in and overlay them on my downstream key. So over that final sort of program output. So let's look into upstream keys. So again, imagine stuff that we're starting to want to layer now upstream from anything happening downstream. So into my media library, and just to give you an idea of what I'm working with here, this is an image that was just shot against a white background. And again, I brought this into Keynote. And what I was able to do is actually key out all of that white and then just create an alpha layer behind that. So again, a transparent layer with me cut out from that white background. And again, that worked well because it was shot on a quite, quite similar white background where the roll off of that white is quite easy to be able to key out. And that was all done in Keynote. So really quite simple to do. What I then did, because I created that transparent background, was I put that green background onto it. So again, the great thing here when you're working with still images like this and using that green background means that I know that green is consistent throughout that whole background. There's no potential for, you know, darker or lighter areas of tonality within that green, because again, it's been generated by software. So it's going to be really nice and easy to create a key out of that. So what I'm going to do is go into my switcher, and let's take that off air. Again, always remember to be taking things off air if you're changing settings. Obviously, if I was running a program here, I wouldn't just be, you know, flipping all these around, but make sure you are taking things off air if it is that you're running this in a live environment. So media player, I've loaded in my image into my active media player. So it's now what I'm going to be working with. And I'm going to go into my chroma key in. And I basically want to work with my media player 1. So what do I want to my fill source? And again, it's the image I've loaded in there to media player 1. And then what I do is I click my chroma sample. And what that does is that allows me to then take this sample of what I want the ATEM to key out. Now, when I've done that, it's actually loaded it up into my preview screen. And now is a really good time actually to probably look at how that is laid out, just so you're getting an idea of what it is I'm looking at. Real critical area of the software here is this cog down on the left-hand side here. That's going to open up your real critical settings for setup within the ATEM, and also just allowing you to label things to make it easier for the person actually controlling to be working with multiple inputs. So you've got general. This is where you're going to set your video standard. Audio, where you can start to basically separate channels and obviously select inputs and things like that. And multi-view. So this is essentially what I'm looking at now to my right-hand side on my large monitor. So when I said the chroma key, and again, you can kind of see it here, been added up into my preview. But essentially, as I look right to my monitor, my preview screen is at the left, my program to the right. I've then got my 4 inputs below. So again, I'm working with the ATEM Mini Pro here. So 4 HDMI inputs. I've then got my media player, so I can see what is active in my media player 1. My stream status and my record status, so very critical areas to be looking while live production is going ahead. And also audio status, so a real nice readout of my audio meters for all inputs, and also my PGM mix down output as well. Labels, and again here you can start to label some of the inputs coming in, so you can see comp and cam 1. That's what I've labeled, so that affects what's actually on the button. So again, talking about for the controller's ease of use and to be able to know exactly what's going on with the different inputs. This is a really good way to do that. Hyperdecks, again, this is where you can start to connect multiple hyperdecks if needed, and also remote stuff if you are working with something with RS422 control. So that's a real good place to be looking at within the software. But now, again, you've seen where my preview is now on my multi-view. And because it's loaded it up into there now, I can start to see it. So again, just as a visual reference, there's my Blackmagic t-shirt going up to my face, skin tones, and then hair, and then off to green. So again, I can kind of go to any area of the screen, and I know it's going to be very nice and consistent. If it is that I was working with something where it was a proper green screen background and we had lit it, a good way to get a more precise sort of chroma key sample that might references some of that changes in tonality within the green is by using this slider to actually make this box bigger. And again, that will allow for more sample to be taken. And again, that will then obviously create a better looking chroma key on this. Now I know it's a nice consistent green, so I'm just going to select it there, go down like that. And again, I can then go on air, and there it is straight away. And again, it's kept it at the same image size that I brought it in at, and it's just loaded it in with that chroma keyed background and overlaid it over whatever input it is that I've got set, which is obviously my computer. So if I was to go to my camera, there again, the upstream key is still active. It's all working down here. You can see it. And then what you can do is actually start to work with this. So again, you've got brightness and contrast. So again, you can start to add a bit of brightness or darken it down depending on how you want it to kind of pop out from the background. Again, things like a bit of contrast always works well for that, and potentially maybe just a little bit of saturation. And then another real good thing to be doing is things like the flying key. So if I click that, it basically goes into a flying key mode. And what it will actually do is, because I've had picture in picture active, it's going to basically send it to wherever my picture in picture was active a minute ago. But within the flying key, you've obviously got some parameters here that we can start to change. So what I can do is actually bring that up in size and then actually start to manipulate its location. And maybe it would be that you'd have it somewhere like that. And again, it doesn't have to be a picture of me while I'm presenting. Seems a bit crazy. But again, it may just be a good way of bringing in images really quick and easily, creating that chroma key, and then having it to, again, just establish and create that recognition for your audience. So that's chroma keying in a very simple way. And again, all done through Keynote stuff that I've just brought in and then loaded up. But what I want to do now is I'm just going to take that off air and I'm going to go back to my DVE, back into the control software. So I was just in the chroma tab then. What I want to do is go over to DVE, and this is where you'll set up that picture in picture. So like you've seen throughout when I was delivering the presentation stuff, you will have seen obviously the picture in picture that was active. And again, if I was to bob it on now, and again, I've just done that through the ATEM Mini Pro using the buttons on there, but again, you've got that on air there. That's then referencing the flying key settings that I just had set within that chroma key. So what I want to do here is actually go in and change this. Now, a real easy way to reset it to its standard parameters is actually on the ATEM Mini Pro itself. You have some buttons for functionality of the picture in picture. And you've got sort of top right, top left, bottom right. And again, I can start to bring this and sort of move it around as to where I want it on the screen. Be very aware that if you're in the software, so if I just go down to there so you've got a better view, if I'm in the software here and I start to actually do some things with this, so I'm going to size it up and then going to move it, and again, maybe just have it something like that. Once I've done all those manual sort of input of settings, if I was to use the buttons on the hardware, it is going to flip it back to those standard settings that are linked with the picture in picture. So be very aware if you are doing any manual stuff within that. Anytime you use those buttons on the actual Mini Pro itself, it's going to go back to those standard settings. Now, another cool thing that you can do is start to mask. So again, I can kind of see this for gamers where they want to see as much of the screen as possible and essentially be like a small talking head, is that you can actually just start to go in and take some of the left and right out. So again, on this sort of aspect ratio, and again, I've done this before, so I know 6 and 6 works really well, but that just cuts it in really nice and tightly. And again, I can then just start to, change that position and get it into a really good position. So I'm maximizing obviously what everyone is able to see on screen while still giving that engagement of me on screen as well in the delivery sense. So let's just go back to standards and let's take the mask off. Again, mask does get saved when you're kind of changing it around at that stage. So that's kind of just a little quick deep dive into the software and some really cool tools and tips, hopefully, for you guys to get started and be working with. But also what I want to do is just obviously go into these other little areas of the tabs and just show you kind of audio and camera as well. So audio tab, what you get access to here is obviously all your audio functionality for everything that's coming into the ATEM Mini. We've actually brought in now the equalizer and dynamic. So these have been brought in from Fairlight, which is our audio side within DaVinci Resolve for audio editing. So you now get a 6-band parametric EQ there. And also a dynamic little area where you can do things like expanded gates, compressors and limiters. And you can see I've done some very basic work here with my mic input that just allows for, nice broadcast safe levels to be coming in. And therefore, all 4 inputs, so your 4 HDMI inputs, and then you've got your mic 1 and mic 2, so they're the 3.5mm jack inputs on the back of the ATEM Mini Pro itself. And what you actually get here is delay. So there is delay now available for those inputs. So again, if you're wiring out to like an audio mixing desk, so you've got multiple mics going on, and then you're sending that mix down to the ATEM Mini, you've got delay options in there now to be able to delay that to sync up with video. Underneath that, you've got your main audio sliders. So again, just working with your dB level of inputs. Your pan pot, so left and right, if you're wanting to pan any audio coming in. And really key underneath is your on or AFV. Now, if you're set to on, it just means that that audio input will be on no matter what I do with my switching of visual. So if I was to switch from this to camera 1 or camera 3 or camera 4, depending if I had all that input, this audio would just stay on throughout the entirety of that switching. If you set things to audio follows video, it means that when you make that switch, it will actually sort of deactivate the audio on this input and then follow it to the audio that is active on that video input. So again, if you're doing kind of like news-esque pieces and things like that, where you want to be cutting to a reporter, and again, you want to take your audio out and follow it to the video of the audio to the video coming through from that reporter, that's the type of thing that you'd be using that for. And then you've obviously got your main PGM mix there as well to be working with. And then moving on into camera. This is where you can actually get access to camera control when working with our cameras. So I've got the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K in front of me here. And what you get access to is your lift, gamma, and your gain. Obviously, very crucial settings if you are trying to match cameras. And again, what you can do is use this little sort of punch out bit here that gives you access to all those 3 wheels in one. So your lift is affecting the shadows within the image, your gamma, the midtones, and your gain is the highlights. Again, they will work vaguely across the whole image, but they are very much trying to be precisely working in those kind of areas as you move between the wheels. And again, just so you guys can see all this stuff instant, again, camera control, live, active, working. Again, I could do some real crazy color shifts there, but again, this should be more for matching camera angles. So again, on my multi-view, I can see input 1, 2, 3, and 4 all coming in at the same time, and I could get into my camera control page here and start to visually match those cameras really nice and easily, all remotely as well, which again can save so much time and efficiency. You then got contrast, saturation sliders, hue and RGB. So again, a little bit more control when you bump out this little bit of the software. Underneath that, you've got gain, shutter, and balance. So again, this is some critical settings within the camera you can get access to. So gain is going to affect the ISO of the camera. Shutter is obviously going to affect the shutter speed, and your balance is the white balance, so the Kelvin of the white balance within the camera. You've then got access to iris control. So again, you'll see on screen as I start to move this around, I can either make it a lot darker or a lot brighter, depending on how I want to work with that iris. So something back up like that. And then zoom control. So if you've got some of the motorized zoom lenses, you can get zoom control from remote from the software as well. And then focus control as well. So a real big one. So I'm just going to knock myself completely out of focus. And then you get a nice little one-touch button to do that one-push autofocus. So again, very, very key settings to be working with within cameras, and all working remotely. So really nice and efficient. That means you're not doing that classic kind of run to camera, change your setting, run back to monitor, have a look how it's changed, run back to the camera. It can be very, very easily and well done all remotely through the software. And again, this is working with our cameras to do this kind of stuff. So back into the switcher tab, and then final thing just to show in here, if I just move my little zoom thing here, is in file. You can actually save a startup state, and this is a really key benefit within the software, so that once you've actually set everything up, so again, these live webinars, once I've set things up within here, I've actually saved it as a startup state, and it basically means anytime I power cycle the ATEM Mini, it actually reboots into this startup mode, which can be, again, very good for people potentially don't know that much about the software and maybe are scared for changing things. You can actually set it up for them, save it as a startup state, and then as it powers on, everything should be active as it was in the last session. Okay, so I'm now just going to go back into presentation mode. So again, I'm just going to set my extended monitor and just get back into my keynote. So 2 seconds, sorry. Okay, so now we're actually going to look at some solutions and workflows within our range of products. So whilst live streaming applications all differ and are used for different purposes and have different target audiences, they do all share 4 core components, and we can categorize them as such. Video sources or sources, so these are things like cameras, computer outputs, media players, and essentially the video content that you want the audience to see. Capture device or interface. So this defines the hardware used to connect that video source to a computer for streaming. Software layer or streaming engine. So that's the encoding of a video signal to a stream-friendly format. And that can either be done in software, utilizing computer resources, or in hardware, like done on the ATEM Mini Pro here. Streaming platform. So that's basically where you're streaming your video to, such as, you know, we've got conferencing, webinars, or live video applications these days. The size and number of products used generally will scale up as we progress through these areas. So starting looking at web conferencing to webinars to then webcasting. But as we look at the different types of web broadcasting in more detail, we can see where each of these four core components we've just outlined fit into that. So we're going to start really simple. So the first example shows us probably the simplest way to go live, and it's utilizing the newly released Web Presenter HD. So it's recently announced and basically gives that simple plug and play solution to bring an SDI source over USB-C or Ethernet. And again, it features that same professional hardware streaming engine for direct streaming via Ethernet directly into your streaming platform, like in the ATEM Mini Pro, ISO and Extremes. Alternatively, again, like you can do in the ATEM Mini Pros, it can take advantage of that UVC technology, which means that software like Zoom, Skype, YouTube Live will recognize this as a 1080p webcam source. So then no drivers required, and it also offers that newly released mobile tethering, like the ATEM Mini Pro and the Extreme. So you can start to utilize 4G and 5G mobile cellular data to actually get access to streaming, without any potential of laptops or anything like that, all direct from tethering to a mobile device. And what that also gives is a really good redundancy. So if for any reason your network was to go down by that Ethernet connection, it would then give a seamless handover to the mobile data being used from that tethered device, and keep that stream going, which in this kind of environment, redundancy for everything, power and streaming, is super, super important. So going back to our ATEM Mini, in this example, we see, again, a very basic setup in which a couple of sources are attached to the ATEM Mini, connected via USB-C to a laptop, very much like I'm doing here. And again, very, very kind of similar to that initial example. But in this case, the unit is detected as a 1080p webcam source, with all that benefit of adding transitions, working with upstream keys, downstream keys that we've just seen in action. Educational and training institutions, as well as esports, demand very similar setups to this. So the next example really shows a good use of the ATEM Mini peripheral connections. So here the USB-C is actually being used for external drive recording. So working with something like an SSD drive. The Ethernet port is then being used for streaming and to also control the unit as well. So using that control software we've just deep dived into. And the 3.5mm jack analog audio inputs, which are both mic and line level, are bringing in additional external audio sources. So this is great for a live stream production with the intent of subsequent repurpose of the contents, thinking like training, tutorials, seminars, sporting events, and even highlight work. An ATEM Mini Pro ISO can in fact record all of your sources and program output, as well as generating that DaVinci Resolve project file, which would then allow you to jump straight into DaVinci and again start to repolish edits, start to add more complex graphics, even look to potentially remaster at higher resolutions. So again, I'm not going to touch on how powerful DaVinci is now, but hopefully you're all aware of how amazing that piece of software is and how that's grown as well within the last few years. So expand and grow. We've now seen how easy it is to really get started with these products and use those powerful features that we've just seen. But you're always going to want to be ahead of the game, and you're always going to get to that stage where it's kind of like asking yourself, well, what's next? Where do I take it from here, and how do I expand and grow with my current products? So as we mentioned earlier, by combining a number of additional products, you can build a very interesting workflow and diversify your services. In this example, we've introduced an ATEM streaming bridge, which allows us to convert the output of the ATEM Mini Pro, ISO and Extremes into SDI or HDMI, either directly or through a simple router, meaning that we can distribute that PGM signal to a different site or area of the building by using a pre-existing Ethernet infrastructure, and then distribute it to other devices, perhaps another monitor, a HyperDeck mini recorder to be recording, or an external encoder, all simultaneously. And to make that even more exciting, we can also forward a port for the ATEM streaming bridge to actually connect to the internet. So that would basically allow your program to get a global reach really easily. And perhaps, you know, your feed could actually become a remote feed for another ATEM Mini Pro, sitting in a different location around, you know, the crazy internet world. And you can look to like duplicate this setup over and over again and create like a global network of ATEM Mini Pros. So again, I think, you know, talking about that scalability and ease of future expansion within our products, again, there's so much now out there to allow for new and innovative ways of working with these products. And again, the streaming bridge can offer a lot now to be connecting people worldwide, which I think is really cool. And how do we actually raise that level of kind of production value? Well, obviously cameras can really help, but obviously resolution is huge. So more demanding productions will require to deliver at higher resolutions over the internet. And in this case, it shows an example of an I/O device, namely the Ultra Studio Mini 4K, one of the many in our playback and capture family, which allows you to actually capture the UHD program output coming from the ATEM Television Studio Pro 4K here into your computer. And in this case, use something like a streaming software layer like OBS or Restream.io. And that allows you to control many aspects of that incoming feed, like bitrate, resolution, encoding, and recording codecs. And basically will become your gateway to a streaming platform. So just to conclude this section quickly, here's a quick matrix just showing some of the benefits and additional features within some of the product range. What I will do is just take me off screen for a second. If it is that you'd just like to take a quick snapshot of that or picture on your phone or something, just to have something to kind of go back to, please do be my guest, but I'm not going to go into detail of all these bits. Have a cheeky slip of water. And then to offer you some context, let's have a look at a few webcast and live streaming cases that have really condensed everything that we've discussed so far. So broadcasters are obviously not new to this. They've already adapted their coverage for TV programs and live events, so they can be accessed, you know, via on-demand or smart platforms in exchange for subscriptions, you know, passes or license fees. And this has been done for a while, and we're all very used to it. But the gadget show, so the ATEM Mini Pro really helped the show stay on screens during lockdown, which again, you know, was a challenge that probably none of us was expecting or, you know, ready for. So again, to see our products working in programs like this has been really cool for us. Usually the program is actually made on an OB truck with a production team of like 20 plus people. A key part of the show is for presenters to react to pre-recorded segments that they've just had been shown to viewers. The ATEM Mini Pro is actually used to throw the VTs, graphics and stings onto monitors around the studio, and was also used to host Wallop of the Week, which is a segment which takes place on Zoom. Moving on to Darude, so an electronic dance music producer, also known as Darude, and is most famous for the classic track Sandstorm, is using the ATEM Mini Pro and Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera at 6K to stream a weekly lockdown series online. Using Twitch as his preferred platform, the Finnish-based internationally acclaimed artist established 3 weekly live streams, attracting more than 250,000 live views across 35 streams collectively since its launch in March. The highest single stream attracting over 12K views alone. GBMC Healthcare System is a 342-bed medical centre that provides acute and subacute care, handling more than 23,000 admissions and 52,000 emergency room visits annually. In addition to internal town hall meetings, GBMC Healthcare System and Focal Point Productions also began streaming frequent Facebook live sessions featuring clinicians and hospital leadership discussing very timely topics. I'm finishing up. Playing for Change is an organisation that brings together a diverse mix of musicians from all musical genres performing in their local environment. Concerts are broadcast via the Playing for Change YouTube channel, which has more than 2 million subscribers. The International Foundation was created to connect people through music and has been powered with the ATEM Mini Pro and Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6Ks. So some really great user case stories there for us, especially within the last year, and how our products have really helped productions to keep going, which, you know, for us is a really special thing, and kind of why we do this. So yeah, very, very cool, and very pleased with everything that's going on with that at the moment. A real big one for us was the California-based nominees for the Emmy ceremony, which was actually streamed live into the telecast, with kits built around the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Cameras 6K and ATEM Mini Pro. And again, in the slide here, you can actually see the setup of all these kits that were sent out to these nominees. The scope of the event and what it was trying to do was obviously super ambitious, with more than 100 nominees all coming in together with very little margin for error. All of our systems worked perfectly within this, and we had some really fantastic feedback. So again, a really great one for us to be getting involved in, and it's great to see, you know, with something that was so ambitious and so little margin for error, to see our products working really well in that environment. Obviously, do not forget, should you need more advice, our resellers are always available to discuss any alternatives with you, and our website is always kept up to date with the latest news, announcements, as well as manuals, FAQs and updates. And it's a real key place to be looking for anything Blackmagic when it comes to any sort of new releases, new firmwares and things like that. The website is definitely the best place to be. So in conclusion, we've obviously been through a super long journey today, and we've discussed a number of topics regarding the web broadcasting and live streaming market. We've given you a picture of why this is so important and relevant now more than ever, and also hopefully offered some advice on how you could approach this business and select the right tool for it based on your goals. We've seen some practical examples on how to use the amazing features that live within the ATEM software control, and the type of thing that you can find within the whole ATEM Mini family. We've concluded on an overview where we've seen some of the uses and production designs to either get you started or expand and grow your current setup in this hugely exciting market. But obviously we are here to listen to you, and I do apologize. Obviously we are a little bit over on time here, but we will now go into the Q&A section, and hopefully we've got some questions to be getting on with. But yeah, thank you very, very much for obviously being here today and listening along. I really hope you found it beneficial. And again, apologies for the slight run over on time. So if we go into the Q&A section, if there has been any questions.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was a really, really great presentation there. And thank you for sharing some African magic with us. Definitely we are going back to our ATEM units and going to make good use of that. So yes, we have some few questions. We have a question coming from Biodun from Lagos, who wants to know the software to use with ATEM Pro to do live transmission seamlessly. Chris?
Okay, so he's got the ATEM Mini Pro. Obviously, you can just, like I showed before in the output settings within the control software, you can direct to RTMP-based platforms within there. If it is that you're wanting an actual software layer involved, so you're basically coming out of the ATEM Mini Pro into the computer, and you want some software there to kind of handle the stream via USB-C or potential HDMI out if you were using that. Things like OBS are really good. Again, Restream.io can work for kind of streaming to multiple platforms at the same time. But again, do remember that there is that potential from the ATEM itself, just using that output tab within the ATEM.
Thank you so much, Chris. So we have another question as well coming from Rotimi. He's asking, I noticed ATEM Minis have inbuilt scalers, but the more professional ATEMs don't have. Why? Chris, over to you.
So again, what you've got to remember is the ATEM Minis are recent releases. So again, they're working with our kind of like highest level of technology now. Obviously, as we progress as a company, our products progress, and obviously, you know, as we start to build new products, we obviously want to try and give, you know, our customers as much access to these great features as possible. So that's why you're seeing it in the more recent editions. And obviously, if you do look back to our SDI switches, you know, those conversions are only available in some of the models, which again, is just due to when they were released and how we're starting to progress, you know, the newer products that we are bringing out. But again, remember that this is only 1080p, only working up to 60 frames a second. And so the processing of internal conversions at that level doesn't require as much as working with, for example, 4K, if you're looking to obviously do sort of standards conversions, frame conversions on something like that. Again, processing power it requires more processing power to do that. And again, that's potentially where that downfall may be seen.
Yes, so we have another question as well from Rotimi. He's asking also, would like to know when BMD is going to release new updates for the Micro Studio camera.
Okay, in terms of development, I have to say, that is just something that I'm even not aware of within the company. You know, the development guys work so hard, and you've got to look at how big our product range is and how much we've been able to do within the last year. And again, we can only do so much. So please do keep your eyes peeled on the website. You know, keep your eyes peeled in the forums as well. Our Blackmagic forum is really good for users sort of talking to each other about, you know, certain setups that they've tried and tested and things like that. But yeah, for anything new release-wise, the website is absolutely the best place to be looking. If it is that it's an actual feature request, please do feel free to actually drop us a line here at Blackmagic Design. Hopefully you've seen in those recent product releases, we very much are listening to customer feedback. So do give us the feedback if it is something that you want to see in one of our products. And what we can do is try to get that to the development team, and they can look at it from there. So please, if you have got feedback in that kind of context, please do get in touch with us. And again, the email address for anything of that nature, you can send it through to presales-emea@blackmagicdesign.com, and that'll get picked up. And again, we can start to look at that and hopefully get it through to the development team who are based over in Australia.
Thank you, Chris. Those were questions from Highway Uganda and Highway Kenya. I don't know if we have any questions coming from Highway Nigeria. Steve? Steve, do we have any questions from Highway Nigeria that you'd like Chris to definitely tackle?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Chris, for the presentation. That was wonderful. We had some educative stuff here. A few questions from here. I'll just read across to you. Someone is asking if, by chance, the Blackmagic is going to inculcate NDI into the ATEM Extreme, probably something like a newer product of ATEM Extreme ISO NDI or something, maybe an upgrade to the product. I don't know if Blackmagic is looking towards that direction. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, again, it just hails back to that development side. I'm not sure where the guys are looking to develop the products. Again, any stuff like that where you kind of have something that you require for your workflow, please do get in touch with us, and this does all get fed back. And again, internally, we'll then see, sort of customer requests and feedback, and also where we want to go internally with development with our products, and hopefully all that comes together to formulate the plans for new products. But again, yeah, I'm not aware of where we're moving in development in terms of NDI in that respect.
All right. One more question again, which says, fixing Blackmagic devices requires a lot of logistics for us in Nigeria and Africa. Is Blackmagic considering opening a service center somewhere within the region of Africa so that we don't need to ship our items back to the UK or the US when we have damaged or faulty products? Chris?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, probably not one I'm going to be able to provide a very good answer on. Again, I'm not aware of anything in the current makings, but again, if it is something that a lot of customers are seeing problems with, again, we can feed that back to us, and I can certainly get it to the right people to be looking at it. Obviously, we are still relatively new as a company, and we are worldwide, in the ways we are able to manufacture, distribute, and repair. So bear with us in that sense. But yeah, at the moment, obviously, you are kind of sort of, it is like you say, UK or US. And again, we want to make sure that we are fully set up to handle high end sort of repairs. So and that's how we are set up here and in the US. So yeah, it's not something I'm aware of at the moment, but again, please do feed it back.
Thank you so much, Chris. Just one more last question. Someone is asking, is there a difference between the Blackmagic Web Presenter HD and the previous edition, the Blackmagic Web Presenter? Is there any significant difference between the two products?
Yeah, absolutely. So the kind of main beneficial upgrade is within the resolution. So the HD will now handle a 1080p stream. So the older web presenter was only working in 720. So that was, again, a heavily requested thing from our customers, was to raise that up to a 1080p HD format. You've also got 12G SDI input and loop through on there now, and you also get some really critical control software where you can really start to see the critical elements of the stream in real time. So the kind of streaming data I get on my multi-view is kind of like megabits per second. I can see how my cache is handling, but within the software with the web presenter, you get for someone who's kind of maybe like a service engineer or working within the area as a real technical sort of person handling streaming, you get a full readout sort of line by line as to how the stream is being encoded and how it's obviously then being sent. And again, if you're ever looking to try and like troubleshoot where something went wrong in a stream and things like that, that is a real critical piece of software to be looking at that in real detail. And also you've got the mobile tethering, like I mentioned before. So the upgrade there, like we've seen within the ATEM Mini Pro ISOs and the Extremes, you've got that access to mobile tethering from a mobile device. So again, it creates that redundancy potential, and also streaming out in the fields where you don't get access to laptops and Ethernet connections and all that kind of stuff. It gives that remote potential now with the unit as well.
Thank you so much, Chris. Just one last question. When are you coming to Nigeria to eat some ogbono soup with us?
Oh wow. Well, I mean, when can you have me? As soon as we're allowed out into the big wide world again, I would absolutely love to. You probably don't understand. I would love to.
It's spicy though.
What's that?
Our soups are very spicy when you come. I'll give you a head up. The soups are very, so you have to come with some maybe something that will always reduce the spice from our. Our soup is so spicy, I guess it might burn your throat.
Yeah, I'll bring a couple of pints of milk with me. No, to be fair, I like a bit of spice. So, yeah, I'm sure, I'm be able to handle it.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. Over to you, Fauzia. I'm done here.
Thank you, Steve. So, Chris, we have one more question for you. Coming from Fred Gikandi. How can one split cameras on the program panel, like if you got 4 cameras to show them at once?
Okay, so just to reiterate, they're looking to input 4 cameras and have them either all on screen at once.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like a quad split.
Yeah.
The ATEM Mini Extreme has SuperSource. SuperSource works as a 4 DVE up with a 5th DVE backdrop. So essentially you could utilize SuperSource within the ATEM Mini Extreme to bring in 4 inputs, set them within the SuperSource and have them, like I had my picture-in-picture with 1 camera up. you can do that with the 4 cameras and then actually have a different backdrop as well. So again, if you need any information on SuperSource, please do get in touch with us here at Pre-Sales, and we can obviously get you to the right pages to be looking at. But essentially, it's actually independent of the 2 DVEs in the Mini Extreme. So you actually get the SuperSource on top of those 2 extra DVEs, and you can essentially have 4 inputs all on screen at once, and then even create an artistic, creative sort of 5th DVE as your backdrop as well. So again, can be used very creatively and work really well for that potential, I guess.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was really, really interesting. And asante sana. Do you know how to respond to that? That means
asante?
Thank you so much. Asante sana.
Oh, Michael didn't tell me that.
When I tell you asante sana,
no,
you say
asante,
karibu.
everyone, really.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time with us, and definitely looking forward to having you again soon. And you'll soon see us on the use cases as well. With all this information, I'm so sure you'll see us on the use cases. So you're going to utilize those products to the maximum.
I can already see that. You know, your setups are very, very professional. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to have been here today. Thank you so much for letting me deliver on your channel. And yeah, very much look forward to where we go in the future and doing more of this. So stay safe, everyone, and asante.
Karibu sana, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, guys, that was a really great presentation from Chris, and you've had all your questions answered. So we had Highway Uganda questions, Highway Kenya, Highway Nigeria, and this was a really, really great platform. Tomorrow, guys, we have another live stream at exactly 2 p.m. East African time. Steve will be able to share with you Nigerian time for the people of West Africa. But again, tomorrow we'll be discussing about the pocket camera family. So you don't have to go anywhere else. You need to know the pocket camera family from Blackmagic, because we have other interesting details that you need to know. Steve, if you could kindly share the social media pages for Highway Nigeria, and also tell our people from Nigeria and West Africa what time the stream will be tomorrow, so that we can all be tuned in.
Yeah, thank you, Fauzia. I really appreciate Chris for this presentation and this time he spent with us. It's fantastic. And I want to just take this moment to appreciate every one of us that is watching from our West African region, Ghana, Togo, Liberia, everybody within the ECOWAS region. I really appreciate you. Tomorrow will be another fantastic day. We'll start the stream exactly at 12 noon Nigerian time. That's GMT +1, 12 noon exactly. And to follow us on our social media, we have different, we are on different platforms. On Twitter, we are Highway AVNG. Please note on Twitter at Highway AVNG. On Facebook, we are Highway AVS NG. On Facebook, Highway AVS NG. While on Instagram, same thing, Highway AVS NG. And any question or comment or complaint you have, you can just send it to us via DM, or you just send us an email to our email info@highwayavs.org, and we'll get back to you. Thank you very much. Over to you, Fauzia.
Thank you, Steve. So we have another question that we had not tackled. That is ATEM Mini Extreme in Kenya? Yes, we have ATEM Mini Extreme locally. And you can purchase from our website, which is www.highwayav.co.ke. And don't forget, guys, first 3 people to make the purchase of ATEM Mini Extreme unit, you get an ATEM Mini unit for free. Tomorrow we also have another goodie to be won. That is a Pocket 6K Pro battery pack. So you have to tune in to know how to go about winning this package for yourself. And as well, we have another question coming from Charles or Daniel. He just asked last minute, very nice show. Where can we get Blackmagic items? Mr. Daniel, we have already shared with you our social media pages. And if you want to make any purchases, you can go to www.highwayav.co.ke. If you're within East Africa, or if you're in Nairobi, you can come to our office, which is in South B at Trans Towers on upper ground floor, office number 6. I'm also going to share with you our social media pages. You can follow us for updated information about our upcoming webinars and any other thing that you might need. For Kenya is Facebook, we are at Highway Audiovisual Solutions Kenya. That is where you're watching this stream from right now. On Twitter, it's at Highway AVS Kenya. On Instagram as well, Highway AVS Kenya. And on YouTube, again, where some of you are watching us from, the page is Highway Audiovisual Solutions Kenya. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Asanteni sana kwa wale walio Kenya na Tanzania. And for Uganda, our Uganda family, thank you so much, Francis, for being part of this with our Ugandan family. I think let's meet tomorrow. We're hoping to have more questions tomorrow and more people as well. Have a lovely afternoon. Thank you, guys. Bye.